Okay, we're back. And during that little break there, I checked up on the Provent, did a little research on it. And now they didn't ask some of these questions, but I think you should know them. If you're going to use a Provent, I'd probably say 99.9% of them are done without the board's approval. So in case you put one in, you don't have to worry too much about the code because you're probably working kind of under the radar. We'll just leave it there. Okay, but the code says that the distance, and I forgot this, it's not 12 inches from here to here. It's 12 inches from here, the outlet, to the Provent, right? That's on page one. There's a whole bunch of information on page 179. Okay, the only thing on the Provent that they asked was how high it has to be. This is six. If this is 6 inches, this is 6 inches. Okay, and like I told you, the air, if you go too far, then this this future vent, Provent, won't pick up the pressure, the pull of the pressure going down. Okay, it has to be pretty tight to make it work. Also, another thing, it said that the tailpiece right here shouldn't be any longer than 12 inches from the outlet of the whatever it is, usually a sink, to the trap. Okay, 12 inches is all they're allowing you. So that one section on automatic vents, it's actually a pretty long paragraph. It's on page 179, paragraph 16C. There's quite a bit of information in there. And it does mention that it has to be installed in a location readily accessible. Now, the rules on this, even if you're not having it inspected, with all joking aside, are smart. Because if you go any further than this, there's going to be a question of, will it work? So let's say you really cheated on the distance and it's not working. It'd be like it's not there at all. All right. And this here, I don't know how important this is, but that is the rule, 12 inches right here. Okay. And remember, if it's time to replace this, you just unscrew it. If it doesn't want to unscrew, you can put a pair of pliers on it. It's rugged enough to handle that. Unscrew it and put another one in. Okay. So this is what you would use if a bow vent wasn't going to work. All right. The bow vent, of course, would have come over here, over, down, and run this way, and then up and out. Okay, so much for the automatic vent, Provent. They also call it a mechanical vent here in parentheses. You'll see on 124. Number 125. Okay, hold on one sec. I'm going to write something down here. Okay, number one, let's see. This is page 14, of course. Number 125. If you had a house with an in-law apartment, can you run a vent on the outside of the house? Now, I know I've gone over this with you before, and let's talk about that. Now, it's a situation that I have in my own house. If I want to put a bathroom in, I have no idea how to get a vent from the basement because there's no future vent through the 2 floors into the attic. And the attic is very shallow. I really don't ever want to go up there. A lot of insulation. It's very shallow. It's not no headroom whatsoever. You have to kind of lay down and crawl around. I don't want to go up there. So what they're saying is, if you don't have any other solution other than like to take your house apart or to run it like outside in a room where you're going to see it, you can appeal your case or you can present your argument to the local inspector. Okay, now let's go to where they talk about that. This is going to be on page 175, paragraph 6E. And the answer, by the way, is yes, only if approved by the authority. That would be the local plumbing inspector having jurisdiction. Okay, so let's look on 175. I think we talked about this before because some of you guys told me, I think it was in Swansea, there was an issue about this not that long ago, within the last year or two. Okay, 6E. All right. It says, for remodeling and alteration work only. In other words, not new work. This would be remodeling and alteration work. Vents may be installed outside the building with prior permission, not after the fact, before you do the job, of the inspector, and when all other means of venting have been eliminated or are not practical. So it's a last resort, is what they're saying here. And the inspector, he doesn't have to say yes. Now, you want to take your, I don't know, this is a tough one. Let's say it means like a basement bathroom where you have a chance of making some pretty good money, especially if times are slow. Nice winter job. Well, you can appeal his decision to the Board of Examiners, the same guys that approved your automatic vent. You can appeal to them, and you might win. What did you do? You just made that local inspector very angry because you made him look foolish, and you might have won this round. He might pick you up on any little picky thing he can find, and good luck coming back into that town. So it's a tough call. I don't know what to tell you on that one, but that's the rule. All right, how you handle the business end of it, that's entirely up to you. Okay, so that would be something outside. Now, why they mention an in-law apartment, I don't know. Because the answer would apply to any house. Now, for those of you not familiar with the term in-law apartment, let me explain this to you. Let's get rid of this. Now, I don't know if any of you are going to be in. Good chance some of you might be a plumbing inspector. Building, probably not. This charging system here is not the best. Okay, it's back on. I know as a building inspector, when somebody would come in and say they want to do a in-law apartment, I'll think about that. You're in a town. Cities are no different. Most cities have like a residential designation. Certain parts of the city, like in Florida, like in the Highlands, for example, fancy houses, pretty well-to-do people, single family. That's it. That would be like an R10. I haven't seen their zoning, but most likely it's something like this. You go into other parts of the city, like where I was from, over near the Boston Road. There's a couple of three-deckers, a number of two-family houses. Okay, that might be an R20. An R30 might be like a three-family, right? But where you have R10 or in the country, like where I was from, Little Compton, it was residential, industrial, and commercial. Industrial only existed on paper. There were no industrial projects or buildings or businesses. There were a handful of small businesses in Little Compton, and some of them were grandfathered in because they were in residential areas. But in general, it was a single-family house on a single lot. That's it. Now, if you applied for a in-law apartment, they call it a mother-in-law apartment. They call it in-law apartment. They're probably better known as a mother-in-law apartment. You would have to take it before the town board, with nothing to do with the plumbing inspector or the building inspector for that matter. And they would have to rule on it. Is this a scam? Is mom really gonna live there, or dad, or whatever? And the answer is they might. But if they're already at an age where they're going to be moving in because the old homestead is too much for them to handle, or whatever, how long are they going to be there? And then once they move on to, Happy Hunting Ground or wherever, nursing home, now you got an apartment. The in-laws are gone. Now it's time to start making some money on a piece of property that was really only zoned for a single-family home. Now you get two. You got an apartment and you got a house on the same piece of property. So I didn't think it was such a great idea, but they didn't ask my opinion either. But that's a mother-in-law apartment. Nothing wrong with it. If somebody is thoughtful enough to take care of their elderly parents, aging parents, if they're not really that old yet, good for them. The zoning, though, gets to be a bit of an issue. But that's what, when you hear a mother-in-law apartment or this page here called an in-law apartment, that's what they're talking about. Now, did I ever see any in-law apartments magically appear that weren't permitted? Yes, I did. And I saw a couple. One of them built an apartment above a garage, had no permit at all to do anything except build a garage. And I happened to walk in to inspect a brand new garage, and it was a house on one side. I couldn't believe my eyes. People living there. Furniture. It was nice. It's a nice place. 2 floors. And in the end, they won. All right. If you get the brass to pull something, some stunt, a lot of people don't know this, or there'll be a rush on illegal things. A lot of towns won't make you tear it down. All right. Some will. A lot won't. Although I did see a job where the guy built his roof too high. It was in a gated community where they had their own set of rules that were even stricter than the state. We would go with a 30-foot roof. In this place, it was 20-foot roof, so everybody could see the ocean. And he went 23 feet. And that group that he had signed on with when he moved in there, they actually took him to court, and he had to rip his roof right off. I didn't care because he was within the state code, but they did. So you never know. When you try to buck the system and gamble, you might win, you might not. Okay, I don't want me to get too far afield here off the subject. So let's go back. We just finished up with in-law apartments. So now you know what they are. Next one, number 126. Now, one thing I didn't mention yet was the questions that we just went over. I had the pages wrong because these questions I answered using the old book, which had a different color. It was, I think, the blue cover book. It might have been the year before. These green ones came out about 3 years ago. So the pages weren't lining up because I checked one of the answers. And then I thought, oh, crap, this is the old book. Now, the good news, for those of you who might be working with the old book, or that's all you got in your truck, the pages don't match up at all. Forget the pages. They're out. However, the sections themselves, the section 16, B1C, or whatever it is, are exactly the same. Okay? The pages are way off, but the sections, where it tells you where it is. And that's how I looked up the page number. It was very easy. I just looked up the section and the subparagraphs and went right to it. Okay? So I changed the pages to what they are now. All right. This is number 126. So we don't spend much time in this part of the book, but let's go there. This is on page 11. So way in the front of the book. Let's see what they got. All right. There it is. They happen to hit the right page. And they're asking, what are the 5 licenses that are granted by the Board of Examiners of plumbers and gas fitters? Now, what they don't mention here as part of this answer, and to me it should have been in there. I have the answer from whoever did this. It might have been Henry. I'm not sure. They don't mention anything about gas fitting, because that board does also do gas fitting. And that's part of their name, plumbing and gas fitting. So a lot of these licenses would be also the same name, but instead of plumbing, it'd be gas. Okay, so keep that in mind. But that's not part of this answer. So the answer for this one is on page 11, starting on page 11. And we have apprentice plumber. We have a journeyman plumber. And we have a apprentice. Okay, so there's 3. And on the next page, on the old book, by the way, I think it was page 12. It was only off by 1 page. Okay, on the next page, we get into business licenses, and you have corporations and so on. And the answer is, one of them is a partnership to do plumbing, and a corporation. The corporation is like a business person, right? It's like on paper, it's its own person. But I think you're all aware that it requires a lot more paperwork but at a certain size, just about all businesses become incorporated, right, for the protection of the owners. So there are 5 licenses that they're looking for here. One, and the apprentice is considered a license. There's the apprentice, the journeyman, the master. Then there's a partnership and a corporation. Okay, so that's the answers. And all of that information would be on page, page 11 and page 12. And I think the corporations actually are on page 13. Okay, you can check that stuff out. Now, that early part of the book, it's actually before, I always refer back to page 80, 81 as like the starting point for most of what we do. But the very beginning of the book, if we didn't cover anything, you can just thumb through there. You got permits, inspections. I'm just mentioning a few things. Variances, renewal of licenses, things like that. A lot of administrative stuff in here. Discipline. Okay. Jurisdiction of inspectors, and so on. Okay, so there's quite a bit of information here. Requirements altered, removed, whatever. Okay. On a single-family home with a 3-piece bath, kitchen sink, and laundry sink. Now, this is unusual. I've only done one of these that I can remember, and it was towards the, I was already teaching, so it was late in my actual business career, and it was an elderly. She was probably in her 60s. I thought she was pretty old at the time. This was probably 30 years ago, and it was in East Providence, when I think of it. And she had a house exactly like this. 1 bath, a kitchen sink, and a laundry hookup. That's it. And it says, what size vent through the roof? Now, this one's a little sneaky. Let's go to the book, the answer. The answer is on page 174. Oops. Hold on. I'm on the wrong end of the book here. 174, section 1016, 5A1. A1. Okay, what it says in the book, doesn't say anything about, they're asking for the vent size through the roof. Is there any structure in which a building drain is located that shall have 1 full-size main stack or vent stack, no less than 3 inches in diameter? All right, so there's got to be at least 1 pipe going through the roof, full size. Normally it's the stack vent, right? The main stack goes up and out the roof. So that's the answer. The answer is a 3-inch vent. Okay, I'm not crazy about the wording here. All right. So if you look on, this is right in the middle of page 174. My advice is to read this yourself and check it out. Okay. All right. So they're looking at 3-inch. Now remember, the one we had up here, I had I'm not going to draw it. It was a 3-inch stack with a 2-inch vent stack that tied back into it. Okay, so you had to have at least 1 vent going through the roof. So I guess it is a vent. It's a stack vent. That last piece of it's a stack vent. All right, so that's the question. And number 128. Who has the authority to approve a mechanical automatic vent? All right, we beat this to death already. The automatic vent was number 124, mechanical vent. And I don't know why it's like an afterthought. They came back to it again. They circled back and want to know who this is. So it's on page 179. Same paragraph as answer for number 124. So since we already beat that one pretty hard, no need going any further with it. Now, what I want to do, we've got about, let's see, we're about 15, 20 minutes into this class. I figured we'd probably run out of, I had too much material to really cover the first class. I wanted to cover it thoroughly. And we've got a little bit of time left. And I do have some things I'd like to go over that got nothing to do with this here. Just a few pointers that you might be able to use out in the trade. Okay, now let's go back to fiberglass tubs. Now, I mentioned fiberglass tubs earlier today about putting insulation in back of them. You can just push the insulation in, but remember, once you push your fiberglass unit in place, that insulation, even though it's kind of in there, whether it's wind or whatever, it might not stay in there. So at least use a couple of, get some like shingle nails, maybe a pound of shingle nails. If you got clips, use those copper clips for your copper tubing. I know you guys don't use them much anymore. Any kind of small nail with a bit of a head on it. Finish nail obviously would be useless because those paper flaps on the insulation, they'll pull right through a finish nail. But you got some something with a head on it, like a shingle nail, the old-fashioned shingle nail. Clip nails. I know you guys may not have those in your truck anymore, but something to hold the insulation up. Okay? And for those of you who haven't cut insulation, what you do is you roll it out and measure how much you want, roughly 8 feet, and get a board and lay it on the insulation. Put the paper up, paper facing up. Remember now, there's two types of insulation. There's faced and unfaced. Unfaced is the stuff that goes in the attic. There's no paper, right? We don't bother with that stuff. We suffer with it when we work in the attic because some knucklehead put the insulation up there before we get there. We got to put our vent out the roof. Okay, not much fun. But in any case, we don't work with that insulation. The stuff with the paper on it, that's the stuff that goes in the walls. Okay? So what you do is you roll out the insulation, paper side up, get a board, measure it like with a Sharpie or something, and put the board down and compress it with your foot all the way down and put it on a piece of plywood or something you're obviously not going to damage. I'm sure the floor will be plywood at this point in the job. And score it. Now make sure you get a nice sharp blade, because if you don't, what's going to happen is it's going to tear the paper and bunch it all up and make a mess. You should be able to, with one shot, go right through it, right through the paper and the insulation, right down to the floor. Okay, or maybe 2 passes. That's it. Take it out and put it up. Also, don't move it too fast. Move it slowly. You can't see it, but there's dust in the air from this. It's nasty. Right? If you're on a bright sunny day and the sun is coming in the right way, it looks like little sparkly things in the air. Now you work with it long enough, you're going to have an irritated throat. Okay? Also, especially you young guys, you're working with just shorts and work boots in the summer, no shirt. If you're working like up in an attic, or you're working like this, putting up in some insulation, be careful, because that stuff sticks to you, especially when you're sweating. Take a shower, don't wash it. Just try to rinse it all off. Don't brush it off. Blow it off before you try to wash it off. Okay? Insulation can be really tricky working with it. That's about it. I've done insulation like in my own home. I've used that solid foam insulation. And of course, I guess you could use that in back of a bathtub too, but I think you'll find it considerably more money. Plus, trust me, it's a pain in the butt to cut. Not as easy as the fiberglass. So that's about it on the insulation. Now, if you do put in a bathtub, I don't know if any of you guys are still putting in those cast iron tubs, but if you ever get a call for a special order or whatever, and you put in a cast iron tub, you have to lay the tub, you put it in place, and you have to raise it up until it's level. Get a good level on it. Level it up. Mark the back wall. And then take the tub and roll it out so it's laying on the apron. Never put it on the floor. Even if you sweep the floor out, not good enough. Put it on the paper blankets or at least some cardboard so it doesn't scratch. Okay? And don't skid it around. Leave it there. Then you go measure down 1 inch and put a 2x4 on that wall that you just marked with your Sharpie or whatever. Okay, and then roll a tub back. The tub has a 1 inch lip in the back. It should sit right on that 2x. Now, I don't know how many of these cast iron tubs are still out there. Not many, I know, but I suspect that maybe special order you might bump into one. All right, they're very heavy, especially the 16-inch tub, the taller ones. They're very heavy to move around. Okay, but one thing I want to mention to you, whether you're doing a steel tub, which I doubt if anybody's going to be doing one of those, cast iron, fiberglass. If it's in a new house, you're in. If it's in an old house, you got to be careful, because old houses, now I lived in one, it was built in 1860. And what I discovered, and also other houses, same thing, the outside wall doesn't settle. It just stays there. Wherever it was placed 100 some years ago, 150 years ago, it's there. But sometimes the inner walls drop down a bit, especially if there's a big span between the supports in the basement, right? All the rules for construction that we have now were not in effect 150 years ago. It was whatever the hell they wanted to do. There was no inspection. I saw that 45 years ago. There was no inspection in Little Compton, nothing in Rhode Island. In some of the bigger towns and the cities, yes, but in the small towns, no. So anything went. So what happened is, and some of you guys that do remodel have seen this, the floors actually tilted, right? Usually towards the center of the house. Or however they're tilted. Be careful. You got to put a bathtub in, right? You got to make sure that the tub is level, front to back in particular, but also, front to the back. I mean, front to the back wall. It's only like 3 feet. But even that could be an issue. Although I don't remember seeing that. I don't know that I ever had to deal with that. But several times I had to deal with a tub that was sitting on a floor that was tilted one way or the other. All right. And if it was tilted the wrong way, there was the tub is only pitched a little bit for the water to drain out. So if the tub or the shower, if it was the shower stall, you would actually have to level it up. Now, how are you going to level a tub if you're on a crooked floor, or a floor that's tilted? Here's how you do it. Let's say that is your tub, and it's level. And you have it sitting on a floor that's off. Okay, now I'm exaggerating, obviously, but you'll see why. Now, this is the subfloor, like that. And the carpenter usually comes along and he'll put the finished floor in, right? We don't have to cut the floor up to put our tub or shower on the subfloor. It's already there. And they come in and do their thing. Now, you can check with the carpenter to find out just exactly how thick what is it he's putting over this, right? Let's say he's putting 3/4 something, especially with tile or whatever he's going to put in. What that means is you can hide up to 3/4 over here. So, okay, you raise this up and you supported it all the way back, right? You fastened it all the way around. Now, what you put under the tub, I never use that. It looks like a joint compound. Some guys put that stuff in there, and it's a nice job. It's probably the best way to do it. If I ever had a unit that needed support, I'd put plywood, shingles, and I'd fasten them all down. I didn't leave them floating. So it was, nothing was moving around, but I think it's better to put mix the stuff up and put it underneath. Maybe some of you guys could elaborate on that. Again, in some ways, it's nice to have a live audience to talk about it. But that's a separate issue. But see what I did here? This green, right, is the finished floor. Now look what I did. I raise this up, we'll say a half inch over here. This green is, we'll say 5/8 or 3/4. So you can't tell what I did. And nobody's eye is going to pick up a little difference here, a little difference here, because the tub is up here somewhere. The apron is down here. So your tub is going to be like that. Nobody's going to notice that. And what you did is you leveled it on a crooked floor. But you can only level it as much as the thickness of the finished floor. You can't cheat any more than that, or it's going to stick out the floor. Okay? But that's one way to get around it. And I've used that, I don't know, several times when I was in business. And I was only in business for like 8 years full-time, then maybe 10, 15 years part-time. So if you're doing a lot of remodeling around the city, some of you guys are going to be bumping into this if you haven't seen it up till now. Okay. 217. Okay, a few more things before we wrap it up. Just a refresher. I can't ask questions because you're not there while I'm filming. But remember, 2 pipe diameters. Okay? You have to be 2 pipe diameters from the spout to the rim of the tub. Now, some of you guys probably, excuse me, it's my buddy, Mr. Spam. 2 pipe diameters to keep it legal, right? Those of you who do tubs and showers all the time, you probably have a certain point. You might even have like a certain brand you use all the time, like Kohler or American Standard, and you know exactly where you're going to put the spout. And you're probably going to be well within, you're going to be 2+ diameter, pipe diameters. The idea is you don't want the spout below flood level rim so the water can siphon back into the system. You got a well, the pump goes out with a power outage. In theory, the water could go, if the spout was down here, like an old tub on legs, could go back into the system, the bath water, which might not be a good thing. Okay, so this is your 2 pipe diameters right here. And the height of the tub valve for tub shower combination, I would actually ask, if there's nobody around, I would go about 40 inches. Right? If there is an owner involved, in other words, it's a custom house, you could ask them specifically, how's this height? We usually kind of compromise because it's a tub and it's a shower. If it's a straight shower, no tub, just a shower, it's always 48 off the floor. Tub shower, 40-ish, right? You guys might have 40, 42 maybe. Never 48 and never much less. Now, in the old days, they had like 3 valves right across, like right about here, maybe 10, 12 inches above this. So you could actually sit there and work it if you were sitting in the tub. You have to crunch in close here, but you could. The problem is you'd have to like reach down if you're taking a shower because it's really low. We don't do that anymore. Okay? That's about it. Okay, we're just about out of time. So that's it for page 14. I know I say this every week, but if you got any questions, you're not finding something, save it for me for next Monday, which would be, what's that, the 8th? Okay, now, here's the other thing, one administrative thing. I'm going to try my boss one more time. I called her between these 2 videos, and she didn't pick up, and her voice box was full. I wanted to ask her about one that we're wrapping up. Okay, we're going to be closing up shop here next week. Will be 111 hours. Okay, I don't know if anybody's got perfect attendance, and I got to sit down and add up your hours, which won't take long. I can do that right now. I don't know if anybody's got perfect attendance, but if you don't have perfect attendance, we're going to have to do something. All right, either she's going to have to have me do a couple of classes. Maybe she can work you in online with something else. And I shouldn't even be saying that because technically you're not supposed to. Tier 1 and 2 can blend, but the others cannot. You're not supposed to blend with any other tier. But when we were in live like last year, you guys in tier 2 remember, we could kind of work things out with the other guys that were there. And a couple of years ago we did it with Henry. Now I don't know. I don't know what we're going to do. That's my question to her today, if I can reach her. If I can't, we'll have to wait until next Monday. Okay, that is it. I will see you. Well, now I won't see you until next Monday. Okay. See you then.